Is it true that Spider-Man was referenced in Bluey, and that one of the minions from Despicable Me recreated one of his most famous scenes? The answer is yes to both questions. In fact, Spider-Man even showed up in The Simpsons, or rather, Spider-Pig did. But let's stick with Bluey for now, because there was a very subtle reference to the web slinger. In the episode The Creek, Bluey ends up getting caught in a web. Webs immediately make you think of Spider-Man, but that alone wouldn't be enough to call it a reference. The thing is, just seconds later, she finds a leech on her arm. Pause and compare this scene to the classic moment when Peter Parker gets bitten by the spider that gave him his powers. It looks like the show was recreating Spider-Man's origin story without anyone noticing. The difference is that Bluey didn't get leech powers. I mean, that would be kind of weird, so it's probably a good thing that didn't happen. Today, we're going to talk about all the hidden Spider-Man references in movies and cartoons. It's time to have fun with us in another Cinewave. Spider-Man has been referenced several times in The Simpsons, but the craziest Easter egg has to be the famous Spider-Pig scene. It happens in the Simpsons movie, when Homer makes a pig walk on the ceiling and starts calling him Spider-Pig. The movie even features a Spider-Pig song that parodies the classic opening theme from the 1967 Spider-Man cartoon. The funny thing is that it was produced by composer Hans Zimmer, who later worked as the composer for The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Want to know something else funny? The Simpsons didn't actually come up with the idea of a pig with spider powers, even though that definitely sounds like the kind of idea the show would come up with. Marvel had already created a character called Spider-Ham back in 1983. He's an alternate version of Peter Parker who was originally a spider and got bitten by May Porker, a pig scientist. Then, the spider transformed into a pig with superpowers. This hilarious version of the character even appeared in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Another franchise that seems to love Spider-Man references is Despicable Me, because one of Gru's minions straight up recreated one of the web slinger's most famous movie scenes. This happened in Despicable Me 4, when some of Gru's henchmen got powers and became superheroes known as the Mega Minions. One of them, Tim, gained super elasticity and used his new abilities to stop a moving train. But wait, pause right there. This scene is identical to the moment in 2004's Spider-Man 2, when Spider-Man had to stop a train using his webs. Another crazy reference from this franchise appears in Minions: The Rise of Gru. More specifically, it comes from the movie's team of villains, who are basically Spider-Man's rogues gallery turned into a group. Wanna know why? The Minions fight a team called the Vicious Six. That name sounds suspiciously similar to the Sinister Six, the group of Spider-Man villains that includes characters like Dr. Octopus, Sandman, Electro, and others. At this point, we're starting to think someone on the production team behind these movies really loves Spider-Man. Going back to Bluey, there's another scene that might hide a secret reference to the web slinger. It happens at the end of the episode Seesaw while the kids are playing. Zoom in on Bingo and notice how she's climbing a net that looks a lot like spider webs. On top of that, judging by the way she moves, it really looks like she's copying the way Spider-Man climbs walls. Could she have watched one of his movies and decided to imitate him while playing? Of course, that doesn't compare to the Easter egg in Shrek 2, which recreates another classic scene from the Spider-Man franchise. In this scene, Shrek hangs upside down and Fiona kisses him, which looks hilariously similar to one of the most famous kisses in superhero history, when Spider-Man kisses Mary Jane upside down in his 2002 movie. Shrek loves referencing movies that were huge during the 2000s, so it was only a matter of time before this moment became the target of one of the ogre's jokes. Before we keep going, how about making your own reference to the Marvel hero by commenting #Spider down below? By now, it's pretty clear that classic Spider-Man moments are constantly being copied or turned into references, and the Amazing World of Gumball couldn't resist doing the same thing, recreating a scene from one of the character's most famous comic book stories. In the episode The Comic, Gumball temporarily became a superhero, but eventually gave up and threw his costume in the trash. That's where the reference comes in, because the scene is identical to Spider-Man No More, issue number 50 of The Amazing Spider-Man, where Peter Parker gave up being a superhero. That panel was already famous, but it became even more iconic after Spider-Man 2 recreated the scene. In The Fairly Odd Parents, Spider-Man's appearance is so obvious that it can't even be called a simple Easter egg, because Timmy Turner literally gets transformed into Spider-Man, complete with his costume and powers. But wait a second, zoom in on him. He has 4 arms instead of just 2, and that is actually a much more obscure Easter egg about the hero. After all, Spider-Man also ended up growing multiple arms in the comics during a storyline where he was becoming more spider than man. It's amazing how you can have a reference hidden inside another reference. Some people only notice the obvious part, while others manage to dig a little deeper. But even cartoons from DC Comics, Marvel's biggest competitor, have made references to Spider-Man, especially Teen Titans Go, a show that makes fun of pretty much everything. There was one scene where Robin was talking about how Darkseid could defeat any superhero. His teammates ask about Batman and Superman, while Beast Boy takes things even further and asks about Spider-Man, who isn't even a DC character. The best part is that Robin answers that Spider-Man simply wouldn't fight Darkseid. Fair enough, he's way too busy dealing with his own villains to travel all the way to the DC universe just to fight somebody else. Like we said, The Simpsons has made fun of Spider-Man several times, so Spider-Pig definitely wasn't the only reference. If Spider-Pig already seemed like an obvious parody, The Simpsons went even further. In another episode, the show practically put Spider-Man himself right in the middle of Nelson's birthday party, and just a few seconds later, it even brought in one of his biggest villains. During Nelson's birthday party, Bart's school bully, an actor dressed as Spider-Man shows up to entertain the kids. The show doesn't even try to hide the fact that his costume is based on the hero. He even says that his spider sense is tingling. The only two things that make it obvious he isn't the real web slinger are the fanny pack and that little belly that makes it look like he's been eating a little too well. The funny thing is, the references in this episode don't stop there, because just a few moments later, one of Spider-Man's biggest enemies shows up. We're talking about this guy with 4 metal tentacles. He's a very obvious reference to Dr. Octopus, who was the villain in Spider-Man 2 and returned in Spider-Man No Way Home. But don't get too excited, because this isn't the real Dr. Octopus. He's actually just another actor who was hired to perform at Nelson's party. But moving past the imitators, the real Spider-Man also made an appearance in The Simpsons. This happened when a girl gave Bart mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. From there, a montage of different people kissing started playing, and one of the scenes is none other than Spider-Man hanging upside down while kissing Mary Jane. That just goes to show how permanently this moment has been burned into pop culture.
Want to keep having fun with us? Then subscribe and turn on the notification bell.
The crazy part is that this kiss was referenced in The Simpsons yet again, during an episode where Homer became a superhero called Pie Man. The scene was recreated, except this time it was between Pie Man and Marge Simpson. Pie Man himself looks a lot like Spider-Man, even though he's also a parody of other superheroes. For example, Bart also becomes a superhero who is clearly based more on Robin than anything else. We already know that The Simpsons basically follows the philosophy of the more parodies, the better. Even though The Simpsons loves making fun of just about everything, I bet you never expected the show to turn Homer into a Spider-Man parody twice, right? But that's exactly what happened, and the other parody is not only way more obvious, but also a lot more bizarre. It all starts when Homer goes through basically the same origin story as Peter Parker and gets bitten by a spider. The difference is that instead of simply gaining superpowers, Homer starts suffering from paralysis, something that can happen to people who are bitten by certain spiders in real life. Even after going through such a terrible fate, Homer still manages to turn into a Spider-Man, except he's a Spider-Man who has to fight crime without being able to move. It's a pretty dark joke, but what else would you expect from a show like The Simpsons? If The Simpsons has already referenced the web slinger, then of course its rival would do the same. In Family Guy, the joke gets straight to the point. When Peter Griffin falls from a high place, webs suddenly appear underneath him and save him from falling. That's when he looks up and sees none other than Spider-Man himself. He's just one more character in the ridiculous number of people who have appeared on Family Guy. And let's be honest, we should probably be thankful that his appearance wasn't followed by some incredibly offensive joke about the web slinger, because this show can get way more extreme than The Simpsons. But did you know Spider-Man was also referenced in a Disney animated movie that is technically part of the Marvel Universe without ever really telling anyone? We're talking about Big Hero 6. Everyone knows this movie is about superheroes, but almost nobody knows that it's based on a Marvel comic book. Don't believe it? Then zoom in on Fred's dad. He looks exactly like Stan Lee. He was one of the creators of Spider-Man and several other Marvel comic superheroes, including the Hulk, Iron Man, and members of the Fantastic Four. Marvel movies had a tradition of giving Stan Lee a cameo in one of their scenes. Since Big Hero 6 is technically a Marvel movie, even though it wasn't marketed as one, they followed that tradition too. Sadly, Stan Lee passed away in 2018, and his final cameo appearance was in Avengers Endgame. That's pretty sad, so how about we end things by talking about the time Spider-Man wasn't just referenced, but actually appeared as a main character during a Phineas and Ferb special. It sounds surreal, but it's completely true. In the episode, several Marvel superheroes lose their powers because of a machine created by Dr. Doofenshmirtz. Because of that, they have to team up with Phineas and Ferb to get their abilities back and defeat several supervillains. Spider-Man is one of the heroes who appears here, but several others show up too, including Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, and even the Punisher. It's kind of crazy to think that Phineas and Ferb live in the same universe as Spider-Man and the Avengers. The next step is right in front of you. 2 fun-filled videos waiting for your click. Thanks, and see you soon.